All right, let's talk about a global empire that's not made of stone or steel, but of grass. It's this massive kingdom that's basically hiding in plain sight, and it shapes our food, our climate, and our history in ways you probably don't even realize. We are, of course, talking about grasslands.
So let's just start with one huge number, 20%. A full fifth of our planet's land is covered by grasslands. To put that into perspective, just try to imagine all of North and South America combined. That's kind of the scale we're talking about here. It's massive.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What exactly makes a grassland, and why should you care? Well, the answers are honestly more fascinating and frankly way more important than you might think.
Okay, so let's build this from the ground up. To really get grasslands, we have to stop seeing them as just empty fields or transitional spaces. We gotta see them for what they really are, a vast, super dynamic, and interconnected global empire. So the whole key is this. Grasslands exist in a really delicate balance. They thrive in that sweet spot where there's not quite enough rain for a dense forest to take over, but there's just enough moisture to keep a desert from forming. It's all about that perfect amount of water.
And this brings us to a pretty cool ecological term, ecotone. Grasslands are a classic ecotone. Think of them as a vital bridge, a transition zone that connects two totally different worlds, the forest on one side and the desert on the other. They're the living link right in between.
But, not all grasslands are created equal. Let's dive in and meet the two main family members, because they each have their own totally distinct personality and climate.
And these two types, well, they couldn't be more different. On one side, you've got temperate grasslands. Think of the American prairie. You've got those really dramatic seasons with scorching summers and then freezing winters. The grasses here are usually shorter. Then you have the tropical grasslands, which we usually call savannas. They're all about wet and dry seasons, and this is where you find those iconic, super tall grasses with some trees scattered around.
Let's do a quick world tour of those temperate grasslands, because I bet you've heard these names before. In North America, we call them the prairies. Across Europe and Asia, they're known as the steppes. Down in South America, they're the pampas. In South Africa, it's the veld, and in Australia, the downs. It's all the same biome, just with different local names.
Now, when you think of tropical grasslands, one image probably just pops right into your head, the African savanna, right? This is the postcard version, that iconic landscape that hosts some of the most absolutely spectacular gatherings of wildlife on the entire planet.
And man, what a kingdom it is. The savanna is the domain of the great grazers. We're talking about those massive, thundering herds of wildebeest, antelope, and zebra, right alongside giants like giraffes and elephants. And of course, wherever the grazers go, the hunters, like lions, are never far behind.
But the importance of grasslands goes way, way beyond just the amazing animals. They have some incredible, often unseen superpowers that are absolutely essential for us and for the entire planet.
I mean, they literally feed the world, both with crops and by supporting livestock. They build and protect our soil from the ground up. They even give us a hand with natural pest control. So let's break that down a bit.
First up, food. The deep, fertile soils of places like the American prairies and Eurasian steppes are no accident. They are perfect for agriculture. That's why we call them the world's bread baskets. It's where a huge chunk of the world's corn and wheat comes from. So what's the secret sauce? Well, it's a substance called humus. Every single year, the grasses die back and their dense roots and leaves all decompose, creating this dark, rich, organic material. It's a slow and steady process that builds some of the most fertile soil on Earth. And get this, it can take centuries just to build a single inch of that precious topsoil.
But they do more than just make good soil. They perform other critical jobs for us. Soil protection is a huge one. Those dense, fibrous roots act like a net, literally holding the earth together against wind and rain. They're also vital for nutrient cycling, constantly breaking down old plants to enrich the soil. And all the diverse insects and birds in these areas, they provide natural pest control for nearby farms. Pretty cool.
Okay, so this brings us to a more serious part of the story, because this productive, absolutely vital empire is now an ecosystem under siege. Grasslands are actually one of the most threatened habitats on the planet, mostly because of human activity.
The question then is, what exactly are we doing that's putting this entire ecosystem at risk? The threats are really direct, and their consequences are, well, pretty severe.
The main threats really boil down to three things. One, we're overgrazing it, putting way too many cattle or sheep on the land so the grass just can't recover. Two, we're converting it, plowing up these ancient ecosystems to plant crops. And three, we're mismanaging fire, which is a natural part of the cycle, but can really damage things when it's too frequent or too intense.
And if you want a really chilling, real-world example of what happens when you get this wrong, you just have to look at the American Dust Bowl in the 1930s. When the prairie was all plowed up, that bare soil had nothing holding it down, so when a drought hit, the wind just picked it all up and blew it away. It was a total ecological catastrophe.
This whole thing sets off a devastating chain reaction. We call it desertification. It starts when the grass cover gets destroyed. Then, the bare soil is exposed to the elements. The wind and rain just carry away that precious, humus-rich topsoil, and what you're left with is basically an unproductive desert.
But it's not too late. The story doesn't have to end in a desert. There are clear, effective strategies we can use to protect and even restore these vital ecosystems.
And here's the blueprint. We can manage livestock a lot better using rotational grazing. We can officially protect key areas by turning them into national parks. We can raise awareness so people know how valuable they are. And this one might surprise you. We can help by not planting trees.
Yep, you heard that right. This is a really crucial point. We're always told to plant trees everywhere, but planting them in a natural grassland can actually destroy that ecosystem. It completely changes the unique open habitat that all the specialized wildlife, from birds to gazelles, needs to survive. It's one of those cases where trying to add something good actually leads to a huge loss.
So, in the end, we're left with a choice. Are we going to keep looking at these vast landscapes as just empty space, waiting to be plowed over or built on? Or are we finally going to recognize them for what they are? A complex, essential, and beautiful kingdom that is absolutely worth protecting. The future of our planet's breadbaskets and the incredible wildlife they support really depends on it.